I have some things I do when I'm burned out on drawing, and I would love to mention them. Absolutely. I think this is going to be like a conversation type stream, so hence why it's just chatting. But I have a little presentation. We're going to do new things today. Ooh. But I got a little presentation that I'll show you guys. I've got some examples that I want to show you guys, and I've got a script that I'm keeping to. Could you believe that? Like, listen, I'm good at like giving speeches and that sort of thing, but with this, I definitely need like a little crutch, so forgive me. But we're trying new things today. Here and that sort of thing. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna take this stream later on and edit it, so future me, have a fun time. But yeah, this is what I'm doing. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome. Okay, so we're gonna begin. I see Dinah's talking about putting a scholar hat on. I have my little graduation cap. I'm not gonna put it on though, because I think that would be very funny. But I think people who are stopping in, like the Electric Demon, hello by the way, wouldn't necessarily get the joke, so I'm not gonna do that. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna start my little rant about creative burnout, okay? So let me pull up my script. You guys are still here, I can see you. But yeah, okay, so, hi, welcome. This is my little rant. So today we're talking about creative burnout and kind of why that happens and what to do about it. What is it? What? But basically, it's like a little presentation that I made to talk about it because I saw a lot of people in the Discord server specifically talking about creative burnout or like artist burnout specifically because we got a lot of artists who like draw and that sort of thing. But the reality is that creative burnout happens everywhere, whether you're making music or you're working on plays as like an actor or actress, or you can experience creative burnout as a musician or as a sculptor. It doesn't just affect creative industries either. You can experience burnout at your job or with other hobbies that you do. So it's important to note that like this doesn't just apply to creativity, but this is definitely much more related to being creative, hence why I'm here and talking and that sort of thing. Is everybody ready? Oh my goodness. Can I get a vaccine against creative burnout? We're gonna talk about that. There's not an end-all be-all solution. There are no vaccines available, but okay. All right, as long as everyone's ready, this is awesome. Okay. This is so silly. Okay, so this is brought to you by me, yours truly. I am not a professional, all right? I'm speaking from experience, but I have done a lot of research, and there are articles that I'm going to be talking about, and if people are really interested in, especially if I end up making this into a YouTube video later, I'm going to have like links to scholarly articles that you can read on yourself later, okay? Okay, so what is creative burnout? I'm gonna make sure that things are changing. Cool. Everything's working as it was planned. This is awesome. Okay, so creative burnout specifically is a state of physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion from excessive or chronic stress related to creative work. Burnout does happen in other industries besides creativity and that sort of thing. But for this presentation and little talk and little rant, we're going to be focusing on creative burnout. So I lost my spot already. Oh, no! So it leads to a loss of inspiration and motivation, and a feeling of being stuck, or being creatively empty. So that can refer to when you're sitting at your computer and you're just kind of staring at the screen, or you have your tablet in front of you and you're just kind of staring at the screen, or you might have a piece of paper or a canvas in front of you and you're just kind of staring at it and not doing anything, and you get this like pit in your stomach of like feeling stressed or that sort of thing. So symptoms can be like procrastination, which is a very common one. Dreading creative tasks, again, that feeling of dread. Lack of enthusiasm for once loved projects. So that also refers to projects that you have put away and haven't touched in a long time, which we're going to put a little pin in that. We're going to get back to it later. So self-doubt, irritability, and physical tiredness. So literally being tired is also a result of creative burnout. We're going to talk about why. It differs from normal like creative dips. So I'm not talking about when you're let's say you're like painting something and you're creating like this masterpiece, right? Ugh, gorgeous, beautiful. I'm not talking about when you're looking at the piece and you're like, I don't know if it needs something in the background or if I need to adjust the character or maybe I need to fix like a technical issue. So like that could be composition or lighting or even proportional values. Like us as creatives, we all know, especially from like a visual standpoint, when there's like creative dips. I'm specifically talking about when you can't even get to that point. You are just staring at a screen or you're feeling dread or you literally just don't feel like creating. So, why does it happen? If we have the definition of what it is, why does it happen? It could be from an excessive workload or poor control or limited reward and limited community leads to burnout. So working too hard on a single or multiple projects can lead to burnout, especially if they don't have an end reward or get published or finished. What I mean by that is if you're working on a project and you've been working on a single project, let's say, for a very long time, like multiple months, and all you do is just post it on the internet or post it somewhere or submit it to a gallery even, that's not really a reward. That's definitely part of the goal to like get recognition for the work that you've done, but that's not a reward. A reward is like getting yourself a sweet treat or doing something else because you did that project. You don't have to reward yourself every single time you do something, but you're not getting those dopamine levels in your head if you don't do anything at all. So poor control refers to how much time, energy, and effort is going into the workload, right? So if you have multiple projects going on in your life, whether that is creative or even just in general, like life projects, the poor control aspect is not managing that time, right? So if you have, let's say, a job normally takes up most of people's time. So you might work 40 hours a week, you might work 50 hours a week, you might work 60 or 70 or even 80 hours a week, right? You might have a lot of time that you're working. So you might not be able to fit or do the things that you want to creatively, and you might be stressing yourself out trying to work on the projects that you actually want to work on. And that leads to burnout because one, you're not getting enough rest, but two, you're stressing yourself out based off of time management. You're not going to be able to do like a full 8-hour painting if you only have 40 minutes to work on something, right? Make sense? Sorry. Limited reward refers to the reward after finishing a project. So like getting a sweet treat, especially if you're not rewarding yourself, but we kind of already touched that. But it can also be like vulnerabilities in personality. So such as perfectionism or I'm gonna butcher this one. Neuroticism, which is the increased tendency to experience negative emotions such as anxiety or worry, or even trying to keep your word and making promises. After all these traits will work against creatives and can lead to burnout. Perfectionism is constantly trying to imitate that perfect vision in your head. So we as visual artists or as creatives always have this idea or concept of what I want that project to be in the back of my mind. So a lot of people, especially when it comes to visual artists, they'll have this perfect idea of, oh, this is exactly how I want this piece of artwork to look like at the end of the day, but their skill level might not match their idea, or they don't understand how to communicate what they're trying to communicate through their piece, especially if it's like an emotional or thematic piece. With music, it might be, I might not have all the skills or musical knowledge to create what I want to create. If it's for being an actor or actress in a play or a musical, it might not be landing all of the notes correctly the first try, second try, third try, 17th try. There's all these perfectionisms that we as creatives are always striving to reach our top, reach our peak, be the best that we possibly can be. Perfectionism is constantly trying to imitate that perfect vision that you have in your head. We as creatives always strive to do better, to improve. It's what makes us incredible workers and have a keen attention to detail. But it also can lead towards not getting things done, especially if it's not good enough, which leads into my next topic, which is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a key component to creative burnout in general. As Teddy Roosevelt once said, and I'm not getting into politics, but he's an alright guy. Comparison is the thief of joy. He's not wrong. And there's a reason why it's quoted so much. For those of you who don't know, imposter syndrome is a psychological phenomenon characterized by the persistent self-doubt of feelings and inadequacy. It's a psychological phenomenon characterized by the persistent self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy despite evidence of someone's accomplishments. Individuals with imposter syndrome believe that they are not competent. Creative has their inspirations, people that they look up to and want to imitate or even learn from. But most of the time, creatives will revert to criticizing themselves because what they created will never be good enough. That doesn't compare to the idea that is in their head or people that they look up to. It's something that every creative struggles with, myself included. And if anyone says they don't have it, they are lying or trying to sell you something. So, we just talked about imposter syndrome. Our last little bit that we're going to be talking about is other health-related issues. This one is a bit more complex, but bear with me. If you have a fever for a long time, right when you're working on a big project, you might end up dropping the project altogether to focus on your health. This is obviously totally reasonable. After all, people do call out of work when they are sick, as long as they're able to do so. However, when you have to push yourself to work on a project, it's not going to make you feel good about the work that you've done. You might think that it's rushed work or sloppy work, or it's not as best as you could do. So if you have a disability or illness, physical or mental, it's important to note that this also can impact burnout. If you're using too much of your energy, it's going to impact your own projects, whether that is for hobby or for as a job. And we as creatives, our hobbies and jobs tend to be intertwined. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying that every creative is obviously working a creative job. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I am saying, though, is a lot of people will do their hobbies at their jobs, especially if it means so much to them. So if you're pushing through creative burnout while you're having other health-related issues going on, whether that's physically or mentally or elsewhere, it's not going to be helpful. It's actively going to work against you. So what it boils down to is I don't feel like being creative. It's a feeling. It's not something that's just decided on a whim. It's not something that is preventable all of the time. It's a feeling. It's not just being lazy. It's not just not having this idea of being perfect. It's something more complex than all of that together. It's a feeling. I said at the very beginning, it's a pit in your stomach. It might be something different to you, but it's definitely, for me, it's this gnawing feeling that I like clench my hands, or there's a pit in my stomach where I'll be staring at my computer screen and struggling with burnout. Like I said, I'm not perfect either. Everyone experiences burnout at some point in their life, right? It happens. It can happen multiple times. It happens to everybody. It's a feeling. It's not because someone's being lazy. And don't ever listen to anyone who tells you to just push through creative burnout because you're just simply being lazy or procrastinating. That's not true. That feeling is a lack of creativity. It's your creative juices being dried up. Now, some of you might have experienced creative burnout before. Have you ever stared at a blank page or opened a creative software and just stared at it? Have you ever stared at... Sorry. Go back. What about looking at your computer or tablet for a minute and then ultimately deciding to not even turn it on? It's a feeling of dread and indecision that creeps up on you, and it's crippling as a creative. So how does it affect us? Well, a lot of different ways, clearly. But I can talk about personal experience, or I can show you the facts. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you guys the facts. So, according to research, and yes, I did do my research, individuals with burnout score lower on creative tasks. They also face fatigue and sleep problems, depression, impaired cognitive function, particularly executive control and selective attention. You might not know what I mean by all of that. So we're going to talk about it, all right? So, for a lot of creatives, it affects people with creative decline or performance drops. So what that can be is, I don't feel like drawing today, or I'm not going to get this project that I want to do done on time or done in a timely manner that I want because I just don't feel like it. It can lead to alienation or isolation. So that worry of, hey, I need to work on this project, but I don't have time, like, because I keep putting it off or keep procrastinating and that sort of thing. I'm not going to have time to hang out with other friends or hang out with people. I need to focus on this, which leads to isolation. It can also lead to just ultimately giving up on projects, which I'm going to show later. I've done this, where you've experienced burnout for so long that the projects that you were excited about and wanted to work on kind of fizzle out and just die and never get picked up again. It can lead to literal exhaustion, so feeling tired, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not focusing enough. And it can also lead to depression. It genuinely affects people. It's not a medical condition, despite what some people say. It's not, and we're going to get into that. But it is a occupational related or hobby related phenomenon. So, like I said earlier, I did do my research. This is what we're going to be talking about. This is one of the journals that I looked into when I was researching this topic and that sort of thing. You can pull up this journal right now and read along if you want to. But I'm not going to read the whole thing, obviously, because that's very boring. But I'm going to be talking about what this paper found in their research and through trials and tribulations, the statistics, because I want to prove that this isn't just being lazy. So, to quote the paper directly, furthermore, we've examined individual and clinical characteristics that may influence creativity in burnout patients, such as depression, sleep quality, daytime fatigue, and cognitive measures, so as an example, selective attention and executive control. The clinical burnout group scored lowest in all creativity-related tasks and cognitive tests. And additionally, they showed lower nighttime sleep quality and higher depression scores. However, creativity scores in both groups of working people were largely comparable. To break that down a little bit and what they're talking about is, in this study, they had a group of creatives who were experiencing burnout. They had a group of people who had like creative type jobs, who weren't experiencing burnout, and you had your normal everyday people. So, however, creative scores in both groups of working people were largely comparable, which means is that the creativity amongst these people were quantifiable. You can put a number to this, indicating that only more severe, so the people who are experiencing creative burnout and identify as creatives, manifestations burnout are linked to creativity. But there are many stories about creative burnout and tons of YouTube videos on like content creators talking about burnout. It's a very real phenomenon, as this research paper has talked about. But across most research papers and journals, you'll find in the little note section of where and how they're doing their research is this. This is the Oldenburg Burnout Inventory, or OBI. OLBI. I'm about to read a section about the Oldenburg burnout theory from the website NovoPsych, which is like a psychology type science journal and that sort of thing. So the OLBI, which is the Oldenburg Burnout Inventory, aims to provide a measure of burnout that includes both physical and cognitive aspects of exhaustion, as well as the concept of disengagement from work. This is reflected in two subscales, so in two different categories. The first one, exhaustion, feelings of physical, affective, and cognitive fatigue, including aspects of fatigue and the need for rest. So as an example, in a survey, as they're researching people and talking to people about burnout, they might ask, after work, I regularly feel worn out and weary, as a question. And then depending on people responses, they either strongly agree or strongly disagree, and everything in between. The other is disengagement. So the degree of distance from one's work encompassing negative attitudes and behaviorals towards the work itself. Disengagement is an important factor when considering clients at risk of so-called quiet quitting. As an example, I frequently talk about my work in a negative way. So the reason why they're asking those types of questions, along with the actual exhaustion part, is to make sure they're not asking people who just hate their job, right? There's a difference between experiencing burnout and people who just actively hate what they're doing, right? So that's why they're asking those questions. So when combined, the two different subscales, it leads to researchers being able to figure out if they're actually experiencing burnout or if they're not. Burnout is included in the International Classification of Diseases, so ICD-11. I'm not going to get into what that is, but basically it's a whole series of like, what is a disease? And it's done at an international scale and that sort of thing. It's not a syndrome, but it is an occupational phenomenon as opposed to like a mental disorder. Burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting of chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is characterized by three dimensions. So the first one, feeling of energy depletion or exhaustion. The second one, increased mental distance from one's job or feeling of negativism and cynicism related to one's job. So, for example, not liking to work on a project or not meeting the standards of a project and that sort of thing. This is mostly focused towards occupation, but it can also relate to your hobbies. And the last one is reduced professional efficacy. So according to the International Classification of Diseases, ICD-11. Burnout refers to specifically the phenomena in the occupational context and should not be applied to described experiences in other areas of life. So, as an example, if you are constantly feeling and struggling to do like everyday things like hygiene or getting out of bed or that sort of thing, that's not burnout, that's depression, right? Like, that's not the same thing. So with all of those three characteristics combined, that is what burnout is. It is a quantifiable thing. It's not something that is just, oh, get over it. It's a real phenomenon that people have done so much research on. The example that I have in my little presentation and while I'm talking to you guys here is one research paper. As I was doing research to talk about it and put like a little video together and that sort of thing, there's dozens of research articles out there. So if there's so much research and there's so much information out there on creative burnout and why it happens and what it is, how do we recover from it? So my little hint here before we go into actual recovery is preventative measures are always going to be better than reactive ones. But that's so easy for me to say who's not currently in creative burnout, right? If you're currently experiencing creative burnout and have this feeling of dread and you just physically and mentally cannot get yourself together to work on the things that you want to work on, that's like not going to be helpful. So are there ways for people to recover if they're currently struggling? Yes. Is there any end-all, be-all, fix-it-all solution? No. Someone would be a billionaire if they had a solution to creative burnout, selling it to us, the suckers, who are suffering, right? However, the good news is, even though there isn't a tried and true solution, there are things you can do about it, which we'll talk about. So, meditation. Most people don't like this answer. But meditation forces your body to slow down. It helps you focus on what's important and what's not important. Of course, your mind wanders, but having a guide through meditation can truly help. Meditation forces your heart rate to relax, to have your brain kind of focus and unfocus at the same time. If you take the time to relax and rest, that helps you get out of creative burnout because you are physically and mentally doing something else rather than focusing on the problem that's causing you so much stress. Next one is cognitive behavioral therapy or counseling. So sometimes talking things through with a therapist is extremely helpful as long as you have a good therapist, right? But I want to make it clear here that it's not a permanent solution, and it's not affordable to everyone either. But CBT can be a helpful tool in your toolkit if you have access to it. Cognitive behavioral therapy isn't a permanent solution. It is to talk to somebody for a set amount of sessions to try to work through a problem. It's not like going to a therapist weekly or monthly or whatever. It's not a permanent solution. And not everyone has access to it. Therapy is very expensive. But if you have that ability, go do it. It can help you get out of that burnout if you have access. Third one, which is very easy, literally rest. I don't mean sitting down watching TV or doing something else relaxing, though you should definitely do those things. Literally resting, I mean getting sleep. Take a nap. A lot of burnout is caused by not getting enough rest because you are working on your projects, and it makes total sense, right? If you have a limited amount of time between your job and your hobbies or just your job, you're spending all of your time focusing on the things that you want to do, which leads to burnout. You are literally not getting enough rest because you are doing these other things that are stressing you out. So if you go to sleep and get good sleep, it can help you get out of creative burnout. Another one, very easy, very simple, is exposure to nature. Go touch grass. Getting away and immersing yourself outside does tend to be extremely helpful or even inspiring. It helps you get away from the work and focus on elsewhere, your surroundings. It literally takes your mind from focusing on that project or whatever was stressing you out and led to burnout to something else entirely. Even going on a short walk once in a while can help. Next one is community. Not everyone gets this type of experience, but if you can surround yourself with your peers, or whether that's like creatives or your friends, this can really help with burnout. See, when you're working on a project or trying to get things done, especially creatively, most artists will tend to isolate themselves to entirely focus on the project that they want to work on. Try working together in a group on a small creative project, or even doing parallel play, which is working on your project while others are working on their own projects, but still being together, whether that is in person or online. Having the knowledge that someone else is going through the same thing that you are, that it's not a solo experience, or someone is going through the same thing that you've gone through or has gone through it, is trying to help you. Sorry, I butchered that sentence. Hold on. Let me try that again. That could be having the knowledge that someone else is going through the same thing that you are, or has gone through it and is trying to help you, can be very helpful. That's the sentence that I was trying to say. So sorry. But the important thing to remember is creative burnout is temporary and shouldn't last forever. If you notice that no matter what you do, nothing is getting you out of that feeling of dread or exhaustion or that burnout, it's time to talk to a therapist. It's time to get actual help. Creative burnout isn't supposed to last forever. Creative burnout can last a month or two, but if it goes beyond that, there's a genuine problem, which leads me back to my first point of why it happens. It can be other health-related reasons. So just keep that in mind. But the better way is prevention. So the things that I'm about to go over is all preventative measures. Primary prevention at the workplace level. So it's addressing the workload, align with your values, cultivate fairness, and foster community, and ensure adequate resources and rewards. So the first one is know your workload, right? If you, most of your time is being taken up by the job that you work and you want to work on other creative projects on the side, don't set aside like 8 hours on a Saturday to finally work on the thing that you want to work on. Split it up. Take smaller sections and slowly work on those projects over time. Wait, Mother, go back to the previous slide. I will go back to the previous slide, no problem. No problem, Peaches. Take your notes. Get your little highlighter. It's all good. It's A-okay. But these are all the current measures to like get out of burnout. But again, the better way to get out of burnout is to like prevent it from happening in the first place. So the first one was knowing your time management and that sort of thing. Professor, when will the time be posted? Assignment? Okay. We'll get to the assignment at the end. There is an assignment, believe it or not. It's at the end though. So there's a quiz. Not quite a quiz. There is an assignment though. We're getting there. So the first one is like know your workload, right? So I know an ad's about to play in like 2 minutes because clearly I've been talking for an hour and I can feel that. But knowing your workload. So if you set aside like 8 hours on a Saturday to do the project that you finally want to work on because that is your only available time, you are going to get burnt out because you're using your only available time to work on that project. So the better way to like prevent this sort of thing from happening is breaking down whatever you're trying to create into bite-sized pieces that you work on over time. I don't want to get into specifics right now, but for me personally, I have multiple projects going on all the time. And I swap between those projects whenever I can. Now, there are times when I'm getting paid for a project, because I do this as like a part-time job and that sort of thing, where I have a set amount of time, a limited amount of time in order to work on that project. So if you have the ability, try to work within bite-sized pieces, but sometimes there are projects that take permanence and priority. So in that case, your best workaround is time management, right? If you know a project is going to take up a majority of your time, don't focus on other hobbies, but make sure that you're taking breaks, whether that is to rest or to eat or to shower or to get out of the house. These are all important things. You should rest. You need to get sleep. Staying up until 3 a.m. to work on a project and finish it is not going to help you. Now, I'm talking from personal experience. I've done it, all right? Did I finish an animation that was due the day before at 3 a.m., 4 a.m.? Yes. Do I regret it? No, because I got a good grade on that project. However, my body suffered for the next 3 days after that, all right? Take the time to rest when you can. If you are on a time crunch, make time to rest. Make time to talk to people. This is good life advice in general. If you have the ability, rotate between activities and reflect constantly. So for someone who's working on a long-term project, let's say you're working on an animation that's more than a minute or so, rotate between activities, whether that is character design or background design or physically animating or getting your sounds together. All of those things do need to go into making animation. And I know an ad's playing, so I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for those who can't listen. I'll finish my thought. But if you're working on a long-term project, break it down into bite-sized pieces and rotate between those activities and reflect on them. Hey, am I doing good at that background design? Am I happy with it? Am I doing all right with the character design? Do I need to take some more time to focus on that character design? Sleep is so 2020. Lee! You need sleep. Goobers, you need sleep. This is why I'm having this presentation. I see you guys when you post up late at night. Oh, I've been up since 3 in the morning. Oh, I've been up since 4 in the morning. I see it in the Discord. I'm telling you right now, you need sleep. All right? This is important. Okay, I know the ads will end in like 30 seconds, so I'll wait, but my goodness, get some sleep, goobers. God. Yeah, so retro, not trendy at all. Ugh. Don't even go there. You need sleep. You need to rest. You need to rotate between the things that you're doing, and you need to reflect on things, all right? My goodness, my goodness. Okay. You would have hated how I worked for my animation class. No, Car, listen. Full transparency, and I will be the first to admit this. Most of my classes, most of my time when I was spent in college, I did some of the things that I'm talking about, but I didn't do all of them. And I still don't do all of them, all right? I still experience creative burnout from time to time, and we'll get to that section when we get there. But when it comes to working on these like projects or classes or that sort of thing, especially when there's like that time deadline added, so you can't submit your art project past the deadline, right? That can be really frustrating and can also lead to burnout because time management, you only got 24 hours in a day. So I'm definitely part of that problem where I would finish a project at like 4 or 5 in the morning, or I did a full-on 24-hour animation contest. That's a whole other side tangent that we're not going to get into. But I had only 24 hours to do that animation, and I was working with a group of people. Like, there are definitely time crunches. That's not what I'm saying. Like, just avoid them. Like, sometimes you genuinely can't. But what I am saying is, even though I was on that time crunch for 24 hours, I still took 2-hour breaks during that time, right? But, so, I see that people are back, so I'm going to continue on my little rant here. Take time for your other hobbies. So if you enjoy playing video games, or you enjoy hiking, or you enjoy going swimming, or going out on the water, or playing hopscotch, or playing Just Dance, like, there's so many things that you can do out in the world. Take time to do those things. You might really enjoy drawing. You might really enjoy creating. Otherwise, why are you here? What are you doing? Most people enjoy what they do, especially when it comes to art and creativity. But make sure that you're enjoying other things as well. Because if you are constantly getting to a point where, well, I like drawing and creating because that's what I enjoy doing, and you're no longer enjoying it, there's a problem. So make sure, my last little bit, is that you are rewarding yourself. You're taking some time away after finishing a project, or even if it's something small, like going out to eat at a nice place, or giving yourself like a little sticker, or buying something within reason, or celebrating and thinking of the next project that you want to work on. There's 24 hours for an animation. Yes, that's a whole other story. We can get to that another time. But yeah, there's multiple ways to prevent going into burnout. So first one is addressing the workload, right? Second one is building awareness of early symptoms, stress, time management, mindfulness, and stress management, right? And your third is rehabilitation. So if you are just out of burnout and you realize, wow, that was such a problem for me, like, have lifestyle changes, go to counseling if you can, start meditating, make sure that you're managing your time much better, have a sit down day where you just kind of get your shit together and figure out, okay, what led me to this burnout, what made me crash out, basically, and what do I need to do to prevent that for the next time. For myself, I know that most of my burnout comes from my time management in very stressful projects. And I know that sometimes I need a lot of recovery time between projects. So here are some like daily tips, right? Build in regular rest and recharge. So that's like going on walks or other projects that you want to work on and swapping between them. Rotate between flow activities and reflective practices. So, hey, I drew for like 2 hours. Do I like the drawing? Walk away, come back, take another look at it, that sort of thing. Talking with groups. So like there's a whole Discord, obviously, like you guys are here from the Discord. Talking to people from the Discord and saying, hey, like I've been drawing for a couple hours. I was wondering if anyone wanted to join me and that sort of thing and wanted to talk about my OCs or my project and that sort of thing. That can build up and prevent burnout. And then mindfulness, right? Like meditation and exercise and healthy sleep. But, you know, those are all basic things. I see someone new's just joined. Hi, sorry, you're like in the middle of my presentation, but we're getting there slowly but surely. But lastly, it's enough to like talk about these things and be like, hey, check out this research article, or here's all the information that I know. But I want to prove it to you. I want to talk about my personal experiences, which requires me, by the way, to be very vulnerable here, So I hope all of you appreciate this, because my God, I would not normally do this. Like I said, we were testing out something new today. This is the new thing. So I want to be very clear here, all right? I might have a BFA. I might have a lot of experience when it comes to creative burnout and like how to move past it and that sort of thing. After all, I've worked on multiple projects, both paid and unpaid. But I'm not perfect either. It does matter, gang. We can see it. Okay, peak. Awesome. Lovely. Okay, so I did not create this image. I want to start off from the get-go. I did not create this image. You know, it would be really helpful if I had his name right now. If I make this a video, there's going to be a link to him. I did not make this image. This is based off of a skin from Diana, League of Legends. The company that made this image isn't Riot Games, but it is, made by West Studio. They're down here. They're a concept art funhouse, think tank. So basically a bunch of concept artists work for that studio, and that studio gets hired by companies. If you're interested in concept art, look into them. But this image was a piece that I not only was inspired by, but I wanted to prove a point to myself. So when I graduated college, I was really struggling with finding a creative job. I knew it was going to be difficult, but after like 3 months have passed with, at the time, it was 331 applications that were kind of like just ignored, I was kind of down in the dumps, all right? And I was getting to the point of creative burnout. So I knew it was coming, but I thought, okay, if I give myself a new project and force myself to work through it, it might really work out. So what I'm about to show you is my drawing. This is my drawing. So what I was doing, and what I've been doing, we'll get to that in a second, is it was my goal to replicate that artist drawing as much as I possibly can, to prove to myself that I could work as a concept artist if I really wanted to, right? So I sort of got there, but as you can see, this is an unfinished drawing, all right? No one has seen this except you guys right now. The reason why it's unfinished is because I got burnt out around this time. I ended up getting picked up into the video game project that I worked on, but there was like a good 1.5 month period of time where I put aside this drawing and couldn't do anything. I literally could not pick up the pen and continue drawing. So there it sat. And it has sat this way for 2 years. I have not picked up this project in 2 years because of the burnout, one, and then I just moved on to other projects. Will this ever be made? Yeah, at some point. All right. I definitely want to get it to this point, and I know I can do it because I've gotten it to this point, but it's going to take me a while and a lot of time, and because this piece is so personal to me, because I wanted to prove to myself that I had the skill level that it takes in order to be like a concept artist at Riot if I wanted to, that there was that comparison there, which is definitely the thief of joy, and I had to stop. So one day I'll get back to it. But it's not going to happen now. Not anytime soon, anyway. So that's the first one. This very unfinished piece, which no one has seen again, besides you guys. This was originally an idea that I had for an art print. So for those of you who don't know, I do sell my work at like craft fairs and that sort of thing. I've done that for a little while now. and I had this idea for like a Halloween themed art print that I would print out. This was a year later after this original fiasco. Okay? At this time, I've been continually struggling with applying to jobs and that sort of thing. That's been an ongoing process. And, but I had the craft fairs as like my kind of little escape of my little bit of success and that sort of thing. And I thought, okay, well, I'll make like an art print and bring it to my next craft fair and that sort of thing. That never ended up getting made. And the craft fairs that I was signed up to do, some of them I had to drop, even though I did put a deposit in and said that I was going to be at those craft fairs. I literally didn't have the energy in me to creatively make anything. So creative burnout, and the point that I wanted to bring up with this piece in general and specifically, is it really sucks when you're doing it as a hobby, but when you do it as a job, it's crippling and even financially causing you stress. So luckily, I have like a real job. I don't do this professionally, thank God. Would I love to do it professionally one day? Sure, 100%. But if I relied on those craft fairs and that sort of thing as my only source of income, and then I suddenly dropped like 4 of them, that's kind of a problem, right? So I've experienced creative burnout, obviously, and these pieces I'm showing you, but sometimes it happens not just because you're physically exhausted and tired, but other times it can also be you no longer wish to work on a project and that sort of thing, which is this piece. So this is a project that may or may not get made and that sort of thing. There's a recording that I have with a bunch of my friends that we were playing Valorant and that sort of thing, and it's very funny to watch objectively. But it's a 4-hour recording that I'd have to cut down into like a video and that sort of thing. And I've told my friends that I would do that at some point. I haven't touched it. Not one bit. I got to this point of like designing the characters and how people would talk throughout like the video, and I have the recording and I have it partially cut up so that I could one day publish it if I wanted to. But I lost interest in the project and I wanted to move on to other things. So sometimes burnout isn't just not being able to do anything. You literally stop working on projects even though you were very passionate about them. You just can't touch them anymore. And then the last one that I wanted to show is this piece. This is just a sketch. It will never be anything more than this. I will not touch this piece ever again. The reason why is I was very inspired by another creator. I watch, for context, and God, this is me being a little vulnerable right now. I watch a lot of Minecraft YouTubers and creators because I grew up watching them and I feel very comforted by the content that they make, and I laugh and find them great. So I was very inspired by creator DocN77 on the Hermitcraft server, and I'm not going to get into the type of content that he makes and that sort of thing, but he was having this like art-related contest, and I thought, wow, what if I submit for that, right? And I got this far, and I was like, I can't do this. Because it wasn't that I needed to do this for a job. It wasn't that it was a project that I was super passionate about. It simply became imposter syndrome. And I was comparing myself to other artists, and I was like, you know what? I can't do this. I'm not going to necessarily like the reactions from people, and I want to avoid that. So this piece will never be made. This will never get done. The time for this piece has long since passed, and it just exists like this. The reason why I wanted to show you guys physically the drawings and the pieces that I I'm being vulnerable about and that have some sort of meaning despite not necessarily looking like it at first glance is because I'm not perfect. All right? I'm not. I'm just a silly little guy. There's a reason why I keep saying and having my own imposter syndrome is I'm just a person sitting in their room talking to a webcam. I'm not someone who's end-all be-all philosopher, I know everything. I don't. But I hope that you can understand that from my own personal experience, the reason why I'm doing this, saying this live, and giving this little presentation is because I genuinely care about other artists and the struggles that they go through. I might not have experienced everything firsthand, but I do have empathy. I get it, all right? I get how crippling burnout can be. I get it can lead to financial struggles. I get that it can really hinder your ability to create things and even impact your education, especially if you're studying art. There was an entire summer where I didn't create anything because I was so burnt out from the previous college year. It sucks. But there are ways to move past it and work through it that I hope that this little thing, presentation, if you will, helps somebody somewhere. That's my one goal. If it helps at least one person, then it was worth it. But yeah. So this leads me to my final little bit here is the homework assignment, the assessment. People were joking about it earlier in chat and I saw that. But I do have an actual real assignment. I'm not willing to show it just yet, which is partially a problem. It's something that I thought I was going to get done before the stream, and then I definitely did not get done. But in the next day or two, depending, I'm going to be making a little community art. Not contest, but prompt. Basically, I'll post to the community, you guys in the server, and to others who want to join us, if they want to participate in a art prompt, and it's Halloween themed. That's all that I'll say about that. That's going to be coming out tomorrow or the next day, so keep an eye out. But basically, I thought, okay, if I've seen that multiple people in the server are currently going through an art-related block or actual burnout and that sort of thing, and there's a difference there. But either way, if people are experiencing that in the server, the best thing that I know that I could offer, people can participate in like an art prompt. And that way we as a community can all be working together on creating something. I don't want to spoil anything, but creating something. And if you see that other people are also creating at the same time and enjoying and talking about not only your art, but other people's art, it can be very inspiring and help people out of art block. So that's going to be happening in the next 2 days, 1 to 2 days. I'm going to be offering that very, very soon. But for now, there is no assignment until I assign the assignment. That'll be happening soon. But it'll be a fun thing. And yeah. And then maybe one day, I'll get back to this project.